Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today at Coach University. My name is Melissa Abache. I work in the in the international admissions team here at the university, and I will be hosting today's webinar about our Masters in Law in Public Law and Private Law. The idea for today is that we have a productive session for you so that you can find out all about our programs. And we're very lucky to have our Assistant Dean of the Law School, Assistant Professor Ayşegül Bure. We have the Executive Director of the Law School, Mrs. Esra Özcan, and we have the Academic Coordinator for our Graduate School of Social Sciences and Humanities, Ms. Tuche Satana, who is also joining us to answer all of your questions. So as you are joining in, we're going to wait a couple of seconds for everyone to be here. As we do that, please know that the webinar is being recorded and we're going to upload the webinar recording to our YouTube channel. And because you have registered for the webinar, you will receive an email 24 hours after this, where you can find the link to our YouTube channel where you can see the video and watch it again. You can share it also with anyone you know who would also be interested in our programs. The idea for today is that we're going to have three parts: a very brief introduction about Coach University. For those of you who are not familiar and are coming across our institution for the first time, but we do know that there's some of you also who have who know more about us because you're here in Turkey or because you have already started or submitted an application to one of our law programs or law graduate programs, but we will give a very, very short introduction. Then we will talk specifically about the law school, the LLM programs, and then we will have an intermediate question and answer session specifically about the program, the courses, the faculty members, the students, alumni, anything you want to know more about the content of the program. Then after that, we are going to give you information about the practicalities of how to be admitted to the program, what are the requirements, what is the process in terms of after submitting the application, the minimum scores, and then we will have information about the tuition of the programs, scholarships, and specific guidance in terms of this year's situation that we know that there's some special circumstances because of coronavirus restrictions that many of you may have in your countries or even here in Turkey. At the end, then we're going to have another session of questions more related to those practicalities, if anything was not clear or if you have a specific question. If your question is very individual or private, let's say, we kindly ask you, we will put our contact details at the end, to please write to us after the webinar so that we can provide a more detailed answer. So I think we keep seeing people joining in. So I will start with a brief introduction about Koç University. We are a young research university located in Istanbul, in Turkey. Young because we were set up 26 years ago, but in that time we have been able to become a center of excellence in Turkey and also in the region in terms of providing a world-class level of education and the level of and quality of research that we are developing across all of our different colleges and graduate schools. We have 7 colleges and 4 graduate schools. Today's program, which is about the LLM Masters in Law, is located within our Graduate School of Social Sciences and Humanities. I say that we're small because, again, within the context of Turkey, our total student body is approximately 7,000 students. That's still considered, let's say, small to medium. And we are very selective in terms of which students choose to study with us and the students that we choose to come and join us. In the same vein, our faculty, you will hear more about specifically our law school faculty, are amongst the best in their fields, not only in Turkey, but worldwide. And they are the ones responsible for the success that we've had over these 26 years. We are a research intensive university, and that is reflected in everything we do. And we will hear more about how is that translated into our law school, because there's some very exciting projects and activities going on in that school. And we also have a very international outlook as a university right from the start. And that is reflected in the number of partnerships that we now have with leading institutions or leading universities and other research centers in the region and in every continent nearly nowadays. All of that is reflected somehow in rankings. Rankings, can be useful for some things, for other things, not so much, but this is how we are, let's say, performing. They just announced yesterday the 2020 QS World University Rankings. So in Turkey, we're ranked #1 as a whole, as a university, and we have been in that spot for the past 3 years. And we are the only university in Turkey in the top 500 of that ranking. So, it's something to be proud, and I know that it helps some students in terms of helping decide amongst the different choices that they would have. Today, because we're talking about a specific program like the LLM, you will see that there's better reasons other than rankings to choose us as the university for your program. Here, I just wanted to, that's the last from me that you will hear, is that one of the things we love about our university is actually our campus, because it is beautifully designed. It has all the facilities you may need as a student, as a graduate student. It has a very lively campus life in terms of cultural, social activities, student activities, our library. But rather than telling you about it, I would invite you to, after today, to check our YouTube channel, because we have several videos where you can see more about the university and about the campus itself, okay? So having said that, I see that some of you have started to write some things on the chat and on the Q&A. So just to recap, for those of you who might be joining us a bit later, now we're going to talk about the law school at Koç University and the LLM programs, specifically about the content, like the courses, faculty, students, format, and all of that. And we will have a Q&A just about that. After that, then we will go into the practicalities of tuition, admission requirements, scholarships, and we will have a second Q&A section of the webinar for that. So now I'm very happy to introduce or invite her to introduce herself, our assistant professor, Ayşe Gülbura from our law school. We're very happy to have her here, and I will now close my microphone so you can take over.
Thank you very much, Melissa. Thanks. Well, first of all, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all those who are listening to us today. I'll briefly introduce myself and then move on to my presentation. As Melissa mentioned, my name is Ayşe Gülbura. I'm currently acting as Associate Dean of our Koç University Law School, and I'm also directing the Dr. Nusret and Samahat Arsel Center for International Business Law. My research areas are insurance law, international transport law, and maritime law, and I'm also conducting some nationally and internationally funded research and teaching projects in our law school. Melissa, could we move on to the next slide, please? Okay, so I would like to begin by giving an overview as to why choosing to study LLM at Koç University would greatly contribute to your future as a lawyer. Well, the first reason perhaps is that you will be taught by faculty members who are internationally renowned and who are also dedicated to train a new generation of lawyers. If you go on our law school's website to see our faculty members and their backgrounds, you will immediately realize that they have degrees from internationally reputable institutions, and they're also affiliated with leading academic associations. We have full-time and part-time faculty members who are teaching on our LLM program, and the part-time lecturers come to Turkey from a variety of countries to teach, such as the United Kingdom, Spain, and Mexico. Another reason as to why doing an LLM at Koç University is something that you should seriously consider is that we offer an international environment to a qualified group of graduate students who are provided numerous opportunities throughout their studies to improve their academic skills, as well as their awareness regarding the contemporary and challenging comparative and international topics of different legal disciplines. And our students also have the opportunity to select courses of their interest, of course, from a large pool of taught courses, which I will touch upon in a minute. Next, please. Thank you, Melissa. So this is to give you an overview as to the number of publications of our law school faculty members. You see, obviously, a consistent and gradual increase in the numbers over the years, which reflects one of our objectives, that is to be globally competitive, particularly in research, without obviously compromising on the quality of the publications produced by our faculty members. Next, please. So you see the research centers and their names. We have mainly two research centers, one on international business law and the other on global public law, as you can see. Their websites are also provided for your information. I may perhaps state at this point that any of our LLM students who are interested in any of these areas, subtopics of law, or subdisciplines of law, are very welcome to attend all the activities of these research centers, because we hold a number of activities throughout the year, especially some conferences and symposiums, which are very well attended. So all our LLM students are, of course, very welcome to all these events. If you have any further interest in finding out more about these centers and their activities, you are very welcome to go onto those websites and have a look at the objectives and activities of our research centers. If we could move to the next slide. Thank you. So some detailed information about our international outlook as a law school. So we have hosted, and we are still actually hosting a number of nationally and internationally funded research projects, and we have quite a few partnerships with a number of institutions, and I will just mention a few of them. So one of them is the Institute of Advanced Legal Studies in the UK, another is the European Association of International Law, the Younger Comparativists Committee of the American Society of Comparative Law, and the Law Schools Global League. I would like to say a few words about the Law Schools Global League in the next slide. The LSGL, so the Law Schools Global League, is a, so if you could move to the previous slide. So the Law Schools Global League is a platform that brings together law schools that share a commitment not only in respect of the globalization of law, but also to integrating global law in their teaching and research. And some of our faculty members who are currently teaching on our LLM program are members and chairs of these research groups. And our dean also previously acted as a co-president of this league as well. And obviously, depending on the level of success of our LLM students, they may be invited to attend the LSGL summer schools or similar activities. So now I would like to give some further information about the features of our LLM program. In total, as you can see on this slide, we offer two tracks, namely the LLM in private law and the LLM in public law. If you prefer doing an LLM with thesis, you will have to take 7 courses, following which you will need to write a thesis. In this case, the program will need to be completed within 2 years. If you would like to pursue an LLM, a non-thesis LLM program, then you will need to be required to take 10 courses and write a final paper instead of a thesis. If you could, thank you. So this is basically a non-exhaustive list of the courses offered in our LLM programs. The 4 courses that you see on the left-hand side and in the middle are the compulsory courses that would need to be taken by the students pursuing the relevant tracks. The students would obviously also need to elect some of the common elective courses in order to complete the taught part of the program, which you can see on the right-hand side. So when we look at these courses, we see, for instance, transnational and European criminal law and procedure, comparative constitutional law, European human rights law. In the middle, we see the international and European contract law. And on the right-hand side, among the common elective courses, we see for instance, intellectual property in a global perspective, or investment treaty law and arbitration. We could move to the next slide, thank you. So both of our LLM in private law and public law programs are, of course, offered in English, with also some bilingual courses and some courses offered in Turkish. I should perhaps remind that our courses are modular and they last from 6 to 8 weeks, and they're also scheduled on Fridays and Saturdays, which obviously permit our students who work at the same time as pursuing the LLM to be able to attend the LLM program's lectures. We further provide our students the opportunity to enroll in elective courses that are offered by other master's programs offered by the Graduate School of Social Sciences and Humanities. Next, please. So most of our LLM students basically are practicing as lawyers, but we have also a few students who are acting as company managers, who are acting as high-profile public officials or as academics, as well as some who are affiliated with international organizations. I will be touching upon what happens after the graduation, so where our graduates are placed after the graduation, but that's going to be in a few minutes. So we can move to the next slide. This is basically to show you the number of our LLM students and graduates by gender. We have 35 female students and 87 male students. And the next slide is going to be about the nationality ratio. We have so far had 96 Turkish nationals on our LLM program and 26 international students. Perhaps at this point in time, I should emphasize the fact that we have a growing number of international students taking part on our LLM program, and we are very much looking forward to receiving more applications from international students. The next slide. So this map is to showcase the broad range of countries where our LLM and PhD students come from. Some of these countries are, as you can see, the United States, Russia, South Africa, Italy, Brazil. So this, in a way, reflects the multinational environment that we provide, or we seek to provide here at Koç University Law School for our postgraduate students. So if you choose to study LLM at Koç University, you will have the opportunity to become part of such a diverse group of students. Our next slide is about our alumni and their experience at Koç University. They were so kind as to share their experience with us. So they basically provided that the LLM program has been the most thought-provoking personal and professional experience that they ever had, that they chose Koç University because it had the best global reputation and that they could not see themselves anywhere else. And finally, that Koç University's LLM program has helped them to understand the essence and soul of the law and of the concept of justice, which they believe to be a fundamental value. And of course, these are all their words and not ours. It also goes without saying that we are working towards ensuring that our new graduate students' experience will be similar to that of our alumni. Our next slide is, so we could move to our next slide, thank you. So this is about another opportunity that is offered to our graduate students at Koç University. Our graduate students will have the option of spending either 1 or 2 semesters in a Koç University Law School partner university through the Erasmus Plus or global exchange programs. The objective is obviously to make use of the host university's resources in order to write either the LLM thesis or the final paper if the student is pursuing a non-thesis LLM program. There is one obviously condition for application, and that is to have successfully completed the taught program, i.e. the courses taken on the LLM program. Our next slide is about the post-graduation opportunities and alumni placements. So our graduates find placements in international organizations and networks such as the UN Women, such as UNDP, They also find placements in globally renowned law firms and NGOs, such as the Turkish Coalition of America. And some of them are also engaged in public service. We have one graduate, for instance, who is an MP, so is currently in the Turkish Parliament. We have one in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we are extremely pleased with the placements of our alumni, both in Turkey and outside of Turkey. So this brings me to the end of my presentation. Before I hand it over to Ms. Özcan, who will be giving you some useful information and some tips about the admissions process, I would like to ask you whether you have any questions so far about the curriculum, about the faculty members, about the students. So I'll be at your disposal in the next couple of minutes if there are any questions.
So I'm checking now our Q&A section of the webinar. However, the questions I see so far are more on the practical side of things, which we will be doing on the second part of the webinar. So if you have, okay, let's see. There's a question here. So Siraj is asking, will this be a complete online program, or the student is expected to visit the campus and be educated or taught there?
This is something that we cannot answer 100% at this stage. So we will inform all our students once we have more information on this subject. So I think it's just a wait and see situation for the moment.
Yeah,
this is all I can say. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But of course, I mean, when the time comes and a decision is made, we will definitely inform them immediately.
Mm-hmm. In normal circumstances, so, you know, in the, let's say, this past cohort, they are here, our students are here, so they take their courses on campus on Fridays and Saturdays, so it's not fully online. But this semester, for example, because of the coronavirus situation, then I guess we had to move all of our courses, to an online delivery format. And Esra, if you want to add anything here, feel free to do so.
Normally we have 1 or 2 online courses, but we expect our students to be on campus when we deliver on campus education. But during this situation, we don't foresee the fall semester. At the moment, we're going to offer our applicants as in like on campus educations, but if we hear any update from the government or the university, we will inform them accordingly.
Okay. There's a question of how many of the courses that are offered are in English. So because we said we have courses in English, some are bilingual, some are Turkish. I don't know if Esra, if you have a.
Yeah, actually we have only three classes in Turkish, and you can see on our brochure on website that they are highlighted with a star that are Turkish. So the international students are not supposed to take those classes, but Turkish students, they are all, of course, elective courses that Turkish open to Turkish students. But they can see on the brochure as highlighted as Turkish.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I see the other questions coming in will be answered. You will see all of the answers for those.
Yeah, in the following slides, they will have the answers.
So let's be patient. We're going to get answers through most of these, I think, or all of these in the next few slides. I'm just going to check briefly the chat here. Okay, so with respect to the thesis LLM, can an applicant change the thesis subject after enrolling?
Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Of course they can.
Okay. Do they have, I guess that similar question would be, do they have to define a thesis topic from the beginning, or
they will not have to do that. They will not have to do that. They will not have to define a topic from the very beginning, of course.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, so we also have some admission questions. Okay. Oops. Okay, so I think, yes, I would like to now invite Ms. Esra Özcan, if you want to introduce yourself, and then we will talk now about the hot topics of admission and requirements, which are very important for all of you joining us today.
Okay, thank you, Professor Bora and Melissa, for the presentation. And thank you everyone for taking the time and joining us today for our LLM webinar. I'm Esra Özcan from law school, and I will provide you with practical information regarding admission process for the LLM programs, and I will be happy to answer your questions along with my colleague from the graduate school, Tuğçe Şatana. Can we pass movie, please? Yeah. This is an overall picture of the admission process. We have usually 2 intakes for each academic year, fall and spring semester. Fall semester starts from September and spring semester starts from February. And deadline for this year late application is July 17th. It's for only international students. We will get to that. You will see details regarding the dates in the next slides. We accept applications through our online application platform that you can see the link here. You create an account and submit all required documents on that system. And the evaluation starts, the process starts, it is very highly selective. We have admission committees for each program, one for public law and one for private law program. And they carefully go through each application with holistic approach, considering candidates' previous education, language proficiency, and their success during the interviews and written exam. We will get to more about the content of written exams and interviews in the following slides. So next, yeah. What do you need to have to make an application? So this is a list of the requirements for each programs. For LLM with thesis programs, we ask an English proficiency exam score. That could be TOEFL, YDS, or YÖKDİL. YÖKDİL and YDS for international students, they are English proficiency exams based in Turkey. So we ask TOEFL from international students. And we quite get questions about the IELTS exam. Unfortunately, IELTS is not accepted in Turkey for admissions, higher education admissions. Therefore, if you have an IELTS score 6.5 or over, you can include it in your application documents. For us to see your proficiency, however, at the end of the day, you will have to provide a TOEFL degree to complete your application and registration in the program. And we ask ALES. ALES is a graduate exam, education exam in Turkey for Turkish students. And if they're applying for LLM thesis program, they have to have a 55 or over score from the ALES exam, but not required for international students. And LLB degree grade, it's an average graduation degree, 2.75 out of 4. This is our grading system in Turkey. But if, of course, students are coming from different grading system, we evaluate those and we convert those graduate degrees to our system. And if it is equal to 2.75 or over, we accept this application. So I also saw in the questions, like some participants today who are in their final year and they haven't received their graduation yet. They can still apply. The system is open to them with their current transcripts and current graduate degree. So we will evaluate their transcripts and then invite them to interviews and written exams if their current degree is 2.75 or over. For non-thesis programs, the application criteria is more or less the same, just exception with ALES. ALES is not required for non-thesis programs. This is an info only for Turkish candidates. Can we pass the next slide? Yeah. This is an update regarding exams during COVID-19 pandemic. We are aware of the fact that most of the exams are postponed due to the situation we are going through, and this pandemic is a very difficult situation for students and current graduates. So the students will not be able to have their language score, TOEFL degrees, scores, or ALES, or their graduation transcript, the diplomas. Therefore, the admission committee will evaluate all candidates on the basis of the documents they could just post on the system. And then we will set up interviews and written exams with shortlisted candidates. If you pass these evaluation, you will have a conditional offer and will be asked to submit or provide missing documents in the first semester, by the end of first semester, or in the enrollment period, if you can, of course, if these exams takes place in your countries or in Turkey. So this is the details, and this is a website that you can find more details about the program and also law school. If you need any help for submitting your documents, or if you need help, if you want to know more about the programs or the professors, you should just please visit our website. You will see also my contact details there, and then ask me any questions if you have. Yeah, next slide, please. How and when to apply. So these are the dates that we are expecting applications. So we have a regular application date, 20th of June, and then the deadline, and then we will have written exams and interviews first on the 7th of July. Then for international students, considering the current situation, we wanted to have an extended deadline. So for until the 17th of July, international students can still make their applications, and then we will have interviews and written exams and at the end of July, 23rd, 24th of July. So what happens after you submit your application? So after the deadlines for each program, like either the 20th, like if you had already submitted, then you will hear from us after the June 20th. And then we will set your interviews on the 17th. And then the admission committee will evaluate the documents that the candidates submitted and shortlist them for interview and written exam. Each candidate will receive a slot for interview time, and we will conduct it by Zoom. So all interviews and written exams will be online. You don't have to be on campus. And then after the first, we will have interviews on the dates that we have. And then the interviews, we will set up written exams. We usually receive questions regarding the content of the interview and written exam questions. Interviews are mostly getting to know the candidate, their educational background, and some questions related to the area that they apply, either in public law or in private law. But in the written exam, though, it is mostly an academic paper, including questions to deep understanding of comparative and international aspects of public or private law. So after all these evaluations, then we send offers, and we first get the approval from the graduate school, and within 2-3 weeks, you will hear from us regarding the application status of your applications. You will have emails from the graduate schools, and enrollments will take place in September. But so far we don't know exact week. But if students cannot travel during COVID-19 measures, they can still. They either do it if you apply online education, they can follow online, or not, they can just defer their acceptance to the next semester, which starts January, February. And I think here I'll stop and pause actually, and then give the floor to my colleague Tuğçe. She will provide more information about scholarships and or information about other tuition fee and other practical information. Thank you, Tuğçe.
Thank you, Esra Hanım, and hi, welcome everyone. My name is Tuğçe Şatana. I'm the coordinator of the Graduate School of Social Sciences and Humanities. And on behalf of our graduate school, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today, and also thank our Professor Ayşegül Buğra for her very detailed academic introduction of the program, and Esra Hanım kindly went through all the details of how to apply and what are the requirements, and then Melisa Abace kindly gave us an overview about the Koç University. So I will be talking about the financials and the accommodation, and also try to answer some of the questions that have not been answered so far that you have kindly posted on the chat. So roughly, as you can see on the slide, the cost of the program is about $11,000 USD. This is calculated on the current exchange rate. It may fluctuate a little bit, but this is more or less the fee of our program right now. And this fee is paid in 2 installments. And it's the same fee for our 2-year with thesis program, and also without thesis 1-year program, which is a more condensed program. That's you take more courses in the non-thesis program, and there's a project writing part over the summer, and you complete the program in 1 year, but you are taking more courses in the non-thesis program. The fee is paid in 2 installments for both non-thesis and thesis, and this is in the fall semester. You pay the first installment, and in the second in the second semester you will be paying the second installment of the fee. So unfortunately, we don't have any other payment plans within the university. Some of the banks in Turkey are offering some installment options, but that's external funding options that are provided. It's not with the university. And as Esra kindly mentioned, there's some scholarships based on merit, and this is determined with your application, of course, and your written exam, and also the interview. It's decided following your completion of the interview. It's decided by the academic faculty how much scholarship the students can receive. And these rates are 25%, 50%, or some students, based on their performance, may receive full tuition waiver, which is 100% waiver of your tuition fee, and some other benefits are also available to those students. And this is not based on any nationality, so there's no difference between Turkish students or international students. I did see some of the questions that you have asked, if there's scholarships for country-specific scholarships for students. So there's no difference. So if you have a strong application, if you do well in your exam, and if you have a good interview, you will be likely to be considered for one of the scholarships possible that is available at the time. So for housing, that's also one of the questions that is mostly asked. Unfortunately, we do not offer housing as a part of our package, but there are some near campus housing options, and we do have some real estate agencies that we work with. So there's some detailed information about these real estate agencies and some other sources on our International Community Office webpage and under our dorms management. There's very limited housing for PhD students, actually. We do offer housing for PhD, and these are shared accommodations with other graduate students. These are fully furnished apartments, and you have your own room, but you share it with others. You share the house with others. And this is only available to PhD students. Yes, and then there's also some other options. Airbnb is also, it's not included here, but it also has been one of the sources some of our international students have been using when they arrive, because there's some long-term options that they also offer for nearby housing as well. Are there any stipends given? For PhD, yes, that answers to the question that was just asked. There's definitely a stipend for PhD students, but as LLM are professional degrees and these are tuition paying programs, it's not offered under LLM degrees, but only in PhD programs, both for public and private law. I would also like to now go into the details of some of the questions that were asked. So I think there was a question about if the program will be online entirely. So that would be, my answer to that would be no. We do require students to be here on campus. On their thesis writing year, they may be able to do it remotely, depending on their work situations or their circumstances at the given time, with the approval of the faculty and their thesis advisors. But we do ask the students to be on campus. But now with the conditions at the moment, the fall semester may start off online. This is not certain as yet, but further information will be provided about that in the coming days. But we're hoping to have all of our students here on campus, hopefully in the fall semester, if not in spring. So there's also a question about our PhD admissions. It should be open in our system. If you're having any technical difficulties, please email our graduate school and we will be more than happy to help you, because the program applications are open both for public and private law right now. So if you're having any problems seeing the application, please kindly let us know so we can guide you through it. And then there's also a question about maybe Ayşe Gülhanım would also like to answer these about thesis writing part where the students would write their thesis in English. I know that there's an option, but Ayşe Gülhanım, would you like to maybe comment on?
Of course. So our graduate students are welcome to write their thesis either in English or in Turkish. This is something that is discussed between the student and the supervisor. So when the time comes for the student to pick the thesis subject, then obviously one of the first things that is discussed between the supervisor and the student is the language of the thesis. But that is not going to happen unless you obviously successfully complete the taught program. So that's something that will need to be discussed, but after obviously that you take the courses and that you successfully pass them. But basically you can write them, you can write the thesis either in English or Turkish. That absolutely depends on you and your supervisor as well. I hope this helps.
There's also one question maybe you can also help us answer. Are international students having an LLM degree get hired in Turkey? So maybe we can give them some a little bit of information about the possible job market after they graduate and what options there are for international students and also for Turkish, of course.
Well, within Turkey, to the best of my knowledge, and I will seek the assistance of Esra on this point, to the best of my knowledge, we have a number of students who post LLM who have been hired in Turkey by companies. Of course, if they're from abroad, it's easier for them to be employed in their own jurisdictions. But if they want to be employed in Turkey, I've seen students who have been previously employed in Turkey, but not obviously in public service by private companies. Esra, would you like to comment on that?
So I think the question is more related to practicing law in Turkey. So international students cannot practice as lawyer in Turkey, but they can work as consultant in international law firms. So most of our alumni or current international students, they work in law firms, but not as practicing lawyers. They do consultancy, or they work in some international companies that they come from their own original countries. For example, one of the branches in Istanbul, they work in that, but they cannot practice law in Turkey with an LLM degree. They need to have an LLB from Turkey.
Some law firms may obviously require foreign qualified practicing lawyers, but obviously that will happen on a consultancy basis. So only perhaps in those circumstances would a law firm be interested in a candidate that had an LLM from Koç University that is from another country.
There is a question about the visa process for international students that I would like to answer very briefly. And whether IELTS is required. As our colleague Esra was mentioning, IELTS as an English proficiency exam, it's not currently accepted in Turkey for enrollment into a graduate program. If you have one, you can apply for it for evaluation. However, the visa application process for international students, when you compare it to other countries like the US or Canada, UK, it's much more straightforward or simple in the sense that if your citizenship is from a country in which Turkey has a cooperation agreement for visa-free entry, you can just enter without a visa. I mean, you enter, there are several countries that we have that type of agreement. Once you're here, then our international community office that we put the website when we were talking about the dormitory advice, they also have advice on what you're going to do after you arrive here to apply for a student residence permit. So for international students, let's say the more important step is obtaining that student residence permit, which allows them to be here for the duration of the program. And the first iteration or the first kind of permit that they receive is for 1 year. So for example, for the LLM thesis students that are here for 2 years, it is renewed after the first year. And again, our ICO, or International Community Office, provides a lot of support in terms of the documents you need to have, how to make an appointment online, when you go to the appointment, what you need to say, and then receiving the actual permit. If you are if you have a citizenship from a country where you cannot enter with a tourist visa or without a visa, then you do apply for a student visa. This year specifically, also the Turkish embassies are trying their best by direction of the national government to speed up as much as possible the student visa approval periods for international students, to make sure that whoever is able to fly to Turkey will be able to do so, and that they won't be delayed because of waiting for a visa from the Turkish embassy. And again, in that regards, our international community office can provide supporting letters to say this student has been accepted by Koç University to this program. They are in contact with several of the embassies and can help in that regard. So I just wanted to clarify that. There's a very nice comment here that I wanted to read in the middle of our questions. From Sena, saying, feeling proud because the webinar is being conducted with women. I can't wait to be there already. Thank you, Sena, for that. That's true. We have a full women panel today.
We have another question.
UN Women Chair, actually, like your UNESCO chair. And I mean, we do a lot of things regarding gender equality at the university too. So. Yeah.
So we have another question from Sabahattin. Thank you for your questions, Sabahattin, and your kind wishes as well. Yes, we are aware that ALES has been postponed, and we will be waiting for the scores of those candidates who will be taking it in August. And students who do not have ALES at the time of their application may be given a conditional acceptance, and they will be required to submit their ALES scores within the first semester. So I hope that answers your question, the first question. The second question is, so what if you have a very close score? We do require the students to have our minimum required limits for both for ALES and for the language. But if you're that close, if you have a 79, you can send a petition to the graduate school, and it gets discussed in the graduate school. I mean, it's close, but we may ask you to retake it within the first year. Or if you have a very close score, such as 78, 79, it may be approved by the council to be accepted as is. And then you had a third question, I believe. So most of the Turkish students do have required internships right after graduation, and our courses in the LLM program are designed to be on Fridays and Saturdays. So most of the students are able to do both their internship and attend classes. But Esra Hanım, you may have also other comments.
Same, Tuğçe, I agree with you. So most of our students are recently graduate bachelor degree. So they continue their legal internship while doing an LLM. So it won't affect, they take Fridays off, and most of the law firms, they agree because they want their staff to follow an LLM while doing their internships. So it is very easy for them to follow both LLM and their internships.
We have a question from an international candidate. Is GRE necessary for LLM? No.
No, we don't ask for a GRE.
That's a question.
It is required for PhD.
PhD is must, yeah.
But for a master's, no. There was also a question about the interview. Will the interview be in English?
In English. So both interviews and written exams are conducted in English, but of course, if a candidate is Turkish, so committee members can ask a couple of questions to get to know them in Turkish, but mostly academic questions are in English.
Okay.
There was also another earlier question, if the interviews would be face-to-face, and I would like to answer that all of our process will be online this year. As much as we would like to host you on our campus and get to meet you in person, unfortunately this year we will only carry on the interview process and the written exam online. So everything will be conducted online this year.
Can I also join for the written exams and interviews? There are a lot of still questions about the content. So the content of the questions, both for interviews and written exams, could include all areas under public law umbrella or private law umbrella. So that could be a broad agenda. So you can be asked any questions related to global issues, and thinking about the private law aspect, and or any other legal questions concerning public law, but that could include any areas from criminal law to international human rights, from constitutional law. So please be prepared, but we cannot give specifically this. But written exams are mostly an academic paper. So we provide a case, and then the students are writing an academic paper. And there are a couple of questions, not regular open-ended questions, but mostly it's an academic paper. So you will have, it's a little bit online, so you will have time to think about it. And all these academic papers will be processed through the Turnitin. So we will evaluate if there's any plagiarism in those papers.
I would like now to jump briefly to some of the questions we have received on the chat box. So regarding reference letters or recommendation letters, it says it's not compulsory for LLM, but if we submit such a letter, will it be useful for our application?
No, we do not evaluate reference letters.
Okay.
Because we just want to evaluate applicants on their academic success.
Okay. Then there is a question, somebody who doesn't have a passport, if there is an alternative way for this. I think our advice would be, if you're offered admission and in your specific situation or your country, you won't be able to obtain a passport to travel outside of your country by September, you can ask for deferment to the spring semester, so that would give you hopefully enough time to obtain a passport and then be able to travel outside of your country, not only to Turkey, but anywhere else. There is a question about the form of how we will apply for the scholarship. There is no part for applying scholarship in the application form. Yes, that's correct, because there is no section for that, because it's not based on financial need, it's based on academic merit. So as Esra was saying, this is done by the evaluation committees, by the professors who are going to be evaluating all the candidates. So there's no separate form for scholarships. They will look at the documents you have provided, and based on your academic merit, they will decide, and based on your performance in the interview or exam, if you will be awarded a scholarship or not. There's a question here, what are the sources available for scholarship, including accommodation and visa? So here, for the LLM with thesis, we do have a specific opportunity, which is now closed for this year, which is the Turkish scholarships, which is a Turkish government program, which is open to nationals from all countries. All countries are eligible, and they have a specific master scholarship, which is for master with thesis. The applications for that will open again around early January 2021. They usually close in February. I mean, they have their own calendar. The reason I mentioned this is that is a scholarship that includes the flight from your country to come to Turkey. It includes accommodation, and it includes a stipend. So that is an option if you are considering maybe studying not this year, but for 2021, for entry in September 2021, and you have the need to be fully covered in terms of your tuition, as well as the other living expenses. You can write to us. We will, before we go, we will put our contact details on the screen so that you can see our websites, and you can see more information about that specific program on our website as well. Then I'm just gonna check. I'm not sure about this, like in the thesis about international subjects in private law. You can maybe rephrase the question to be more specific about what, I guess you're asking about what are the subjects in international private law that can be done as a thesis?
Anything like, so they define their thesis topic once they start at their studies in LLM. So they work with the professors in different areas of research. So if they have a specific area on their mind, they can define that professor and approach them, and then they can work on that topic. But it could be any international and comparative law area, or they can even do interdisciplinary research, combining public law and private law. But if they have any specific area, they could just write to us and we can define a professor that they can work with.
Okay. There's someone who says, I want to become a judge. So is there any benefit to stay there for work after completing the LLM? This is from an international candidate. And I think we have answered that you would not be able to become a judge in Turkey because that would mean practicing as a lawyer, correct? Okay. Okay. Professor Ayşegül.
Shall I just answer this one? So that would mean working in the public service, and that would not be allowed for foreigners. So if they are willing to become a judge in Turkey, that is going to be very unlikely, I'm afraid. So I am not entirely sure that, you know, we should encourage them to pursue an LLM program here if the only reason for that is that they want to become a judge in Turkey. I think doing an LLM here would not give that opportunity.
Okay. We have a question from Irem. So could you give more information for those who would like to pursue a career in an academic field? Those that I guess
research assistant, yeah, I saw that question. So if they want to, like most of our, like I think 40% of our LLM students, they follow a PhD afterwards, and then they can apply to our PhD programs if they want to follow an academic career. That doesn't mean that they are hired as research assistant. Research assistant is something different, but PhD students here at Koç University are fully funded with full scholarships as full-time researchers. So they can work under international projects, they can work with professors, and they write their PhD thesis within 4 years. But if they want to be hired as a research assistant, which is an academic career, we open calls to everyone, like in Turkey. It's an open call. They can follow that career options, positions, and then apply for that. But for LLM, we don't have specifically research assistant position.
Okay. Again, a question about the exam and the interview. Will it be only international law subjects or interdisciplinary? Or will also national law, I guess?
Depend. Like for example, we mostly prepare, especially for private law, we prepare our exams depend only for international students and some for Turkish students, because if there are some questions internally, some from Turkish jurisdictions, of course, we cannot ask those questions to international students. If we have those questions, we will have both international questions, comparative aspects, and also from the Turkish legislation to Turkish students. But for international students, it will be only comparative international.
So this is a question from a Turkish participant.
Yeah,
so I guess
they will have both. They will have questions from the Turkish jurisdictions and also international.
Okay. Then what is the academic language? As we said, the programs are all offered in English, and there are some elective courses which are offered in Turkish. But again, international students do not have to take those because they're electives, and they are marked on the website, so you can see which of those electives are the ones that are only available in Turkish. Otherwise, all the other courses are available in English. What does a full scholarship cover? Tuition. So it's a full tuition exemption or waiver. It doesn't cover other living expenses or any other benefits. I think the same person was asking about the passport. I think I now understand your question better.
Yeah.
Yes, in our application form, you have to upload a passport or ID. So again, if you don't have a passport, or maybe if you have an expired passport, you can upload that, or your national ID card, correct?
National ID is also fine.
Yeah. So I think you might be from India, if I'm maybe guessing your name right, or but yeah, if you have, you know, your I'm trying to remember the name of the Indian national ID card, but anyways, if you have that, you can upload that to your to the application. There's someone asking, I also want to work part-time during the LLM. Yes, that's possible, an international participant. So we've had students who did that. Again, internships at different organizations or law firms here in Istanbul. Let's see, I'm gonna go back to the Q&A, see if we have new questions here. what will be the duration of the written exam in terms of minutes or hours? Can we give some information about that?
From the previous experience, I might say like around 2 hours, but we never like depending on the content of the exam. So I cannot say now 2 hours. It could be even 24 hours if they need a in-depth research paper. So I cannot say, but if it is just like open-ended question, it is always 2 hours or 2.5 hours. But like if it is an academic paper, they will give them 24 hours.
Okay. There's a couple of questions here from Ali. I think, Ali, you're in the wrong place right now, or you're in the wrong. If you received a mail from the university asking for a Turkish language certificate, it means that you have submitted an application for our undergraduate, like our bachelor's in law program, for which you do have to show that you have Turkish proficiency. So right now we're talking about after bachelor's in law, the master's in law. So you can come back to us via email. I will put our email details on the next slide, and that's why. But right now you're in the wrong webinar, basically is what I want to say. How much it costs for the whole semester? So the total program cost is approximately $11,000. So if you divide that by 2, that's around $5,500 a semester, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. So, do you have any short courses for maritime law in the summers? It's a question, right, for Professor Ayşegül?
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much. We are not holding currently any short courses for maritime law in the summer period. I do teach maritime law, however, at the undergraduate level, and I also teach at the postgraduate level the international transport law course, which is a common elective. So if you are admitted to the LLM program, you will have the opportunity to elect the international transport law course, in which there's a small part about international maritime law. So if you're interested in maritime law, I think that will be the opportunity for you to be more acquainted with maritime law.
Great, thank you.
And they can also follow an independent study with a professor, for example, if they're interested.
If they're admitted, yes, if they're admitted, if they become, of course, a graduate student, they can always contact me because this is my field of expertise. So I would be happily, accept them as part of the independent study program. So we can write a paper together. I mean, they can write a paper under my supervision. I'll be very happy to supervise any paper with a maritime law topic.
Okay, I'm conscious of time now that we have reached 1 hour. So I'm just going to do the last 3 questions that we have on the Q&A and then put our contact details to finish today's webinar. So one question here, do students with non-law background are also asked to answer law questions during the interview? We should clarify that you should have a law background. So you should have graduated from a bachelor's in law or LLB degree. Otherwise, you're not eligible for the LLM program. This is due to national regulations of the Higher Education Council of Turkey. So we or any other university in Turkey is not able to accept students to a master's in law that did not complete a law degree in their bachelor's. Okay, so I hope that answers the question. There is a participant from Bosnia and Herzegovina interested in which master programs. Today we're talking about the LLM program, but if you want to see, we will put our website where you can see the full list of programs offered in the Graduate School of Social Sciences and Humanities and at Koç University, because we're not sure about which area you're interested in. In terms of law, we offer masters in private law and public law. How to apply, last question, we'll repeat this again last time. How to apply for a scholarship in LLM for public law. You apply to the program, basically. There's no separate form for scholarships or sections in the form for the scholarship. You apply for admission to the program, and based on your academic profile and strengths, you will be considered for a tuition scholarship that it's either partial or full, and this will be decided by the faculty members in the program who are evaluating all the candidates. So it's a simpler process, I guess, than what you see in other universities or in other countries, where there's separate forms, separate timelines. Here it's just simple. You apply to the program. And when you hear back, if you have been successful in terms of your admission, you will also hear if you got a scholarship or not. Okay, so I hope that that settles the topic for today. So I'm going to close now the Q&A and go back to our slide with our contact details. So you can see the Graduate School of Social Sciences website there. So it has all the information about the programs, the application process, the deadlines, the link to the online application form. You will be able to find it there. When you want to see more about the law school, and as our colleague Esra said, you can see her contact details. If you have specific questions, especially if you're from Turkey, you can contact her. For international applicants, we have our international admissions website that gives you more of an overview about the university and about questions like you were asking about the passport and visas and residence permits and everything like that. And you can find our contact or email address there. So I think, and of course, you know, we're on social media. I apologize because I should have put the graduate school's social media now that we have all those active channels here as well. But you can follow us, especially on Instagram. We have a very nice kind of set of content, so you can have a glimpse of life as a student here. And with that, I'm going to be now saying goodbye and asking our panelists for today to also wave goodbye to today's participants.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much again for taking the time to join us. And you will receive the video recording for today's webinar in about 24 hours after we upload it to our YouTube channel. Okay, so with that, I want to say bye, and I'm going to close today's session. Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.